According to my Nava computer, the...
Shut up! Just shut up, you idiot!
Sheriff, this is no time to panic.
This is the perfect time to panic. I'm lost, Andy is gone. They're going to move from their house in 2 days, and it's all your fault.
My fault? If you hadn't pushed me out of the window in the first place...
Oh, yeah. Well, if you hadn't shown up your stupid little cardboard spaceship and taken away everything that was important to me...
Don't talk to me about importance. Because of you, the security of this entire universe is in jeopardy.
What? What are you talking about?
Right now, poised at the edge of the galaxy, Emperor Zurg has been secretly building a weapon with the destructive capacity to annihilate an entire planet. I alone have information that reveals this weapon's only weakness. And you, my friend, are responsible for delaying my rendezvous with Star Command.
You are a toy!
Howdy, partner, and welcome to TomHanksgiving. I'm your host, Elvis, and today we're talking about a very, very special movie in the Tom Hanks library. 20 years ago came the release of the one, the only, the legendary Toy Story. And I'm very excited to talk about it today with my guest.
I am SungWon Cho, and I am very happy to be here talking about Toy Story.
Absolutely, and bonus points because you yourself dabble in the art of voice acting.
Yeah, a little bit here and there, yeah. So, movies like this, especially Disney and Pixar movies have such good voice acting in them. They were a big inspiration to me as a kid, even like before I knew about like that I wanted to do voice acting. I was always very impressed by how just real and just emotional, like cartoon characters' performances could be. And Tom Hanks in Toy Story is particularly good.
Yeah, I mean, just in a whole movie, and perhaps a whole pantheon of all the Pixar movies of pretty much perfect casting. Like Tom Hanks as Woody is insanely good. And I don't know if you've seen we're jumping ahead already here, but if you've seen the boards for early Toy Story concepts and how much of a dick Woody was.
Yeah, I heard about it though. Like, wasn't that like was it Jeffrey Katzenberg's idea or something?
Yeah, Disney
yeah.
was pushing for edge and for like dark comedy, something like what Shrek ended up being, and just pushing Woody in that direction. He was such a douchebag, and obviously that was before Tom Hanks came into the role most of the time. But even the Woody that remains in the movie today is kind of slimy and does some shady shit.
I was gonna say, like, he is kind of a dick, but what works about that character and I mean his performance is that at least I, even as a kid, liked Woody.
Yeah.
Even though Woody does shitty things. Woody acts very selfishly, he's very petty in the beginning. But there's something about, actually, as a kid, I hated Buzz Lightyear.
What kid hates Buzz Lightyear?
Because I was like, but he's not a toy. He is a toy. I'm so mad I can't even think straight. I was like, he's a fucking toy. And Woody, it's like Woody is right here, even though Woody,
Buzz's delusions don't impede anyone's progress. They don't hurt anybody. But Woody like genuinely does things that are detrimental to other people.
Yeah.
Oh.
And this was before I'm sure I was like 5. Of course I didn't know who Tom Hanks was, but
I knew who Tom Hanks was when I was 5, but I'm hosting this podcast.
How old were you when Toy Story came out?
Oh, I can't say on the air because my roommate, who is sometimes the co-host of this podcast, doesn't actually know how old I am.
Oh, so it's like a secret?
Yeah, and now and I know he listens to the show, so he'd find out.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
It's weird because there was a moment where I was terrified. And this is a stupid, nerdy thing to be terrified about. Where I thought I hadn't seen Toy Story in theaters, and because I remember very distinctly seeing A Bug's Life in theaters and every Pixar movie since then. So it's kind of like been a tradition for me. but there's only one joke, strangely enough, and it's this joke that I remember from the original screening of the movie.
Okay.
And that was seeing the virtual realty sign. Because I remember being in the theater, and everybody was quiet, and I feel like I was the only kid that was smart enough to get the joke.
Even the adults are like, what the fuck?
Because they don't know what virtual reality. They never heard of the Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
But
I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, I was all over that shit. But back to the voice acting and how much of a dick Woody is. I think it's like I've said many times on this podcast. You bring in Tom Hanks when you have this character who's a little unlikable, but he's got that everyman charm that...
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Woody... Yeah, go ahead.
He just brings that gravitas. He brings that level of relatability that you just get along with him.
Woody has to be, like, a lot of things in that movie. Like, he is a leader, and he kind of relishes being, like, the most popular toy and, like, really kind of, like, secretly likes that. But there's genuine... friendship with the other toys, and he like genuinely cares about them. But at the same time, Tom Hanks has to do so much. He has to do that, but he has to have that jealousy. He has to show this really ugly side of Woody. But at the same time, you cannot make him so unlikable that the audience just totally bails on you.
Yeah, and what I was gonna say is part of what you're saying with how genuine. He seems to like the other toys and everything. Part of what works is he's really good at his job as a leader too.
That's true. Yeah.
Like he's very even keeled. We know he has his own concerns, and we see that. But he's very good at leading the gang, I guess, of toys.
Right.
And people respect him because he's good at the job. And of course, he always has his eyes on the prize. And the morality that at least this first movie presents us with is that toys are there for their owner, no matter what that means.
Right.
And he gets that more than anybody else. And Tom Hanks again brings that all to him. And I want to get a little later into what we think is like his best scenes and stuff like that, and how voice acting specifically hits the video or informs the movie. But just up front, I got to talk about. I don't think we have to summarize this movie of all movies for the podcast. If you haven't seen Toy Story.
What the fuck?
Well, what the fuck? But you haven't seen Toy Story and you're listening to this podcast? What? Who are you?
Why?
Yes, why and how is this possible? But so I'm not going to sum up the movie for you guys, but I have to say, so this was of all the possible Tom Hanks movies, and I'm a big Tom Hanks fan for obvious reasons. Of all the possible Tom Hanks movies that I wouldn't have to rewatch to talk about in the podcast, this was the one. Because every episode I've always made sure to just rewatch, take some notes, or if I haven't seen it before, obviously I have to watch it. But this was one where I didn't need to do it. And when was the last time did you watch it for this, or are you going off?
I have that movie basically memorized at this point.
I basically me too, but last night I was like, you know what, I'll pop it in while I'm doing cooking some dinner and dumping some files and doing my laundry or something like that. And I sat down and watched the whole thing. I didn't move. It's so damn watchable.
That movie is perfectly paced.
Yes.
And I think a lot of I don't know, do you watch a lot of current animated movies?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much almost all the big ones that come out.
Okay, right.
I was raving about the Lego movie before we started rolling.
Yeah, the Lego movie's great. But I think a lot of animated movies these days, and this is not like a nostalgia thing, like, oh, back in my day. It's not like that. It's like, but I think genuinely they suffer from a lot of pacing issues. I think either, first off, Are we talking Tom Hanks or the movie, or what should we be focusing on?
It encapsulates that. Like, I like to get into a lot of the movie stuff too. Like, Tom Hanks is obviously in a super important part of the discussion.
We'll obviously discuss Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
I can talk about Toy Story for like hours. I think the movie. I think it might actually be my favorite Pixar movie.
It might be this might be the longest podcast to the warning. I mean, if you've downloaded it, you know how long it is. But yeah, we're going to talk about Toy Story.
300 megabytes. But
we're actually streaming it right now because it's so long.
Well, what's your favorite Pixar movie?
Favorite? That's the hardest
Do you not
question.
have one?
I would,
Okay.
I would, if I had children, it would be an easier time to tell you which my favorite children.
Yeah.
Because it changes so often because of what mood I'm in, what I'm thinking. Like for a while there, I think it was Finding Nemo, and Finding Nemo was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And then I watched The Incredibles, and it's like, this is the most amazing movie I've ever seen. It's so bombastic, and like Brad Bird is the greatest cinematic genius I've ever seen. And then I watched Tomorrowland, and then maybe I'm a little hotter on Toy Story. The interesting distinction I can make about Pixar films is that traditionally speaking, at least as I've mentioned on this podcast before, my favorite one of the Toy Story films has always been Toy Story 2.
Oh, really?
I've always thought that my one caveat is that I like Toy Story 2 more for the depths that it goes in, but I know on the whole, Toy Story 1 is a perfect movie, and it's a superior film. But after watching this again last night, I might just completely change my answer. Because again, it's so perfectly paced, and it's so damn watchable. Every moment of this movie, I was just filled with glee. There was never a moment where I'm waiting for the next part, because every part of this movie is not only just fun and evocative of a great narrative, but it's all thematically appropriate too. And that's the biggest downfall of, like, I don't want to get too much into the sequels because we'll do future podcasts specifically for them. But the biggest downfall of like 2 and 3 is that there are sequences that just have nothing to do with the character story. But like what we were talking about before we started rolling about how vines are just purely compressed moments.
Right.
This movie is like as short as it could possibly be, because it's just exactly the purest form of what this story could be, because it books along. I'm rambling now. Please jump in.
No. There in the beginning there are like a few like jokey jokes, I guess, like when they're, what are you looking at, you hockey puck, like stuff like that.
But they're establishing character.
It's still world building. Yeah, it's still valuable. You know what's funny is
and you have to build that world, because when you're first watching this movie, it's like, oh, toys are alive. You can't just go immediately into plot. You have to be like, and this is what they're like.
Yeah, they act. They make fun of each other. They do this. They have meetings. You have to set all that up. So actually, it all is essential. And what's funny is that maybe like a couple years ago, I think my family was just watching it in the living room, and I just happened to walk in, like maybe like I forget where it was. They might have been at the gas station.
Perfect scene. Love that scene.
And I just like sat down. It's Toy Story. It's fun, and I watched it all the way to the end. It's so good.
You can't not watch this movie.
There is no part that's like just I can just leave now. It's just this part. It's constantly moving at a good pace, and I think what makes that movie and what is kind of a gripe I have with a lot of animated movies today is the relationship between Woody and Buzz feels genuine. It feels earned. And it feels like the amount of time they spend together doesn't feel like, I wish I could think of a good example, but I think in other animated movies, characters become friends or romantically involved, but mainly friends too quickly.
Yeah, there's this.
It doesn't feel like it genuinely happened.
What you said before about like the moment, like it not being earned, feels very true to me. Like. Yeah. And even like writing movies, like that's such a thing that is so tricky, is making sure you've written a scene where like you've earned this moment, you've earned this relationship. And I think you're right that Buzz and Woody are so, and it's crazy to think that it's mostly just these two characters butting heads the whole movie. Yeah. But it seems like again, the movie's quick enough, it's short enough that it is the tiny pieces move very quickly. But every scene kind of pushes their relationship into a new direction. It's not like we spend an hour with Woody and Buzz and Woody is just like, oh, you're stupid, I don't like you.
Yeah, and then at the end, they just kind of that together.
Yeah, it's like they meet and he's very jealous, and then they meet and he realizes, oh, he thinks he's the actual Buzz Lightyear, but nobody else knows this. And it's like these small little things that build up, and then Woody's like manipulating him. Oh, let's go get the spaceship when they're at Pizza Planet. Right. So there's always something new happening with their relationship. Yeah. Which I think is part of the three, because when I was watching this last night, obviously I've known forever that this movie is amazing, but I was really trying to look like, what about this movie that, even different than like the sequels, makes it so engaging to watch? Because again, like you just described a situation, you sat down, watched the whole thing from where it was. I couldn't stop watching it last night. It's like a tractor beam, and I think it's that there's three things I put it to. One, the constantly evolving relationship of Buzz and Woody that's never like, too quickly or too slow. Yeah. And that's like kind of standard for any movie though. Like, I think that's just part of the whole. Two,
if you have two characters where the relationship is so dynamic and so engaging, that's gonna be. I think that's what actually. That is a huge reason why it stands above the sequels, which I also really like.
Yeah, and the sequels are great, but you fundamentally tear down the Woody Buzz storylines because they're not together for most of those movies, which is probably still the smarter choice, because you couldn't do a Woody Buzz story that would ever
top the first.
Yeah, because
they're friends at the end.
Even when they do reset Buzz Lightyear, it's not the same.
Right.
Which they do in both movies. One movie to great heights, and the other to less great heights.
Yeah.
But again, that's another pod. But and then the two other things I think that really make Toy Story a step above other movies and even its sequels is, and this is number two is like, so number one is like just what's a great engaging movie. Number two is what's a great engaging Pixar movie. And this is that. The way they do characters at Pixar is like sort of, it's interesting because they almost cash in on like not stereotypes but archetypes.
Okay,
like, when you see a character, you're like, oh, this is exactly what this character should be, and then they use it to the maximum full potential. Like you described, you mentioned the hockey puck joke, which is just sort of an inside joke that was actually part of Don Rickles' stand-up.
Oh, okay.
So it's almost like, what's the whole reason? Like, it's kind of an inside joke. Is it that integral to the movie, or are we just taking time? But when I thought about it this viewing, it makes perfect sense that Mr. Potato Head would be the stand-up comedian of the toys.
Yeah.
That's who he is. He's changing his face. Like, so it's all about his personality. It comes out of that. And that's kind of what I'm thinking of with not just Toy Story, but all the Pixar movies. They kind of fall in on this archetype and then find like maybe one unique twist or like the way in which you haven't thought of it before.
Right.
And as soon as you hit that, it's like, that's perfect. Of course, that's what that would be. Yeah. Of course, you would have a T-Rex that's insecure. Of course, you would have a dog that's really loyal. Of course, like this one is a little bit more, you have to think about it, but of course your piggy bank would be the one that's always just paying attention to what's going on and is observant of the community at large and is making, and of course you would want that to be Cliff Clavin.
Right.
But, and I think you see that in the other Pixar films as well. Of course, Elastigirl, the mom would be the one who's stretching out in all different directions to make sure the family's together.
Damn, you really thought about this.
I just constantly think about Pixar movies pretty much all day. So, but yeah, that's in most Pixar movies. But the thing that I think, the third tier of why I think Toy Story is so engaging above, and this has put it above all other Pixar movies and probably above all other Toy Story movies, is that there's kind of a constant, and this goes back to the pacing, there's a constant change and reestablishment of environment. Like, we're constantly revealing new stuff. Like, at the very beginning of the movie, we're revealing that Andy's playing with his toys and what that's like. And then we reveal how the toys are alive. And then there's kind of a smaller reveal of the army guys. And what's great about the army guys is, like, that goes back to that archetype where it's like, of course, this is what army guys would be like if they were alive. And it's hilarious. And we get the thematic connection when, like, Sarge says, a good soldier never leaves a man behind. So it's appropriate to the story at large. Yeah. But as soon as that scene is done, we're done with the army men. They come back for, like, a couple sight gags, but, like, there's, like, we're not wasting any time pretending they're a real character. Yeah. Not that they aren't a real character, but you know what I mean? Like,
I think in a worse animated movie, the army guys would, like, come back with, like, the rest. this is a issue I have with, like, they bring back all the minor characters at the end for like a last hurrah, and it's like you don't need all these minor characters. You can have them, but to kind of shove them in always feels very forced.
Yeah, and like sometimes I appreciate like maybe especially when it's a Toy Story movie, it's like, yeah, I kind of like seeing everybody at the end. It's established a trope
That's
of
different.
the show.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Like, you don't have to have every single character come back every time. We don't need to see King Julian at the end of Madagascar 5 or whatever. But yeah, like I think the Army Men are a perfect example. It's like, this is exactly what these characters would be. This is so much fun. But if they were in the movie any longer for any significant scenes, it would be like, this is just spinning our wheels now. It's fun, but it's not important to the story anymore. Yeah. And like, there's not a whole 5 minutes, but like almost 5 minutes where we're just following the Army Men, and we just met all the other toys and Woody, but it happened so quickly and with such a thematic connection.
It's such a good sequence.
And it's so good that like you don't notice it, so it doesn't feel like we're spinning our wheels. And then, bam, they're gone.
It doesn't feel separate either, because the toys are like waiting. You see them like waiting. They have the baby monitor or whatever, and they're like engaged. Like, it's still definitely part of the story.
Yeah, and I would never say it's not. Yeah.
Going into the acting, the voice acting of it.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, a great scene is the "You are a toy" part. That's like, whenever I think of Woody in that movie, that's like the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, and actually, just to quick put this in, this usually comes up later in the show, but because you brought it up, we do this thing where, what's the Hanksiest line in the movie? And the one I always go to describe it is like, it's like he sounds like Woody, and there's no doubt in anyone's mind that "You are a toy" is the most Tom Hanks sounding line that's ever been uttered.
Absolutely, yeah. Anytime he yells,
it's just, he's got that perfect shoutiness.
Right.
But yeah, you were saying about that scene specifically.
It's just the way it's like this release of just rage. Like, he's been like kind of trying to like deal with this, I mean, in his own like petty way, but just finally he gets to just unleash it, and it's so it's such a good performance.
Yeah, it's great. And I think they say in one of the behind the scenes, John Lasseter describes that scene as, you watch Woody say, "You're crazy," to Buzz, and Buzz says, "You're basically back, I don't understand you at all." And, and you as the audience get both of their point of view at the same time.
Right.
And that's just like, it's a beautiful moment. And like, maybe like, you can't even pick a best scene in this movie. I was trying to think like, what is his strongest scene in the movie as Tom Hanks, as a voice actor. And I feel like the instinct initially was to go to, what's like the most emotional scene? So maybe the one where he's stuck
where he's like in Sid's house.
Yeah, and he's stuck under the tool bed, and he's talking about how he's...
That is really good. I was going to mention that, but that is a really good scene.
I think it's a great scene, and it really showcases vulnerability. But I think based on our conversation, actually, because of what a hard job he has to do to make him likable while he's still a dick, I think the best scene, the strongest scene, is actually the scene right after he pushes Buzz out of the window, because you still like Woody when he's done that.
He just did a horrible thing,
and that's a miracle of acting if you still like this character.
It's funny because I always you're right, like, he just shoved Buzz out the window, but I'm still like, I hope, but he didn't mean to do that. I'm still trying, like, as a kid, I'm still like trying to defend Woody in my head.
Yeah. And that is not an easy feat. He's a total douche in this scene.
That is a remarkable, not only character, but performance.
And I think I think a big part of that is and this is another thing, like, I've seen this movie countless times. I've gone over it again, but just, I don't know, maybe it's just preparing to talk about it for this podcast made me think about it in a different way. I think a huge part of why that was successful, why he can do this horrible thing and you're still on his side, is something that is lacking actually in the sequels, is that Woody in this movie is a putz. Every scene is kind of about kind of about emasculating him, just kind of undercutting him. Like,
yeah.
In Toy Story 3, you would never have a scene where Woody comes out of the closet and then a bowling ball hits him on the head.
Woody's like a messiah in Toy Story 3.
Yeah, he's like he is the cowboy hero, and like
right.
I love that Woody, and I look up to that Woody. But when you look at this first movie, he's kind of a fuck up.
Yeah,
the whole movie's kind of like the way
he's constantly like getting thrown in the truck and just constantly like the. Are you familiar with the term the butt monkey?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, TV tropes. Yeah, just that's. You're right. I never really thought about
the
that.
butt monkey. It started on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Actually, coined
did it
that
really?
term. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he's such a putz in this movie, and I think that's part of the other reason why you can get behind him for being so kind of shady, so kind of insecure. Is like you're like, but he's so pathetic. You get behind him.
Another thing is that even though he does such bad things, he's not a bad person, but he's not bad. Like, you can understand, and I think Hanks helps convey that really well. I think if they had gone the Jeffrey Katzenberg route where he's just a dick, like, that movie would have been a mess. Because you wouldn't care about Woody's redemption. You don't relate to him at all. But jealousy, it's a thing that we all can relate to. It's an ugly part of humanity, but he shows it in a way where it doesn't how can I say this? It doesn't consume the character. You still feel like a connection to Woody, even though he's kind of grappling with these, like, and not necessarily in a positive way, but you can relate to how he's dealing with.
Yeah, you see Woody like dealing with these serious things, and I feel like most people, when they're watching it, whether they're conscious of it or not, are like, oh, that's just what I would be like.
Yeah.
Because and that's the other brilliant thing about casting Hanks, and this is another thing I've noticed since I've been doing this podcast, is that the best Hanks, in my personal opinion, is when he's frustrated. Like, he's never actually mean, or he's never like malicious, I suppose is the way to put it based on what you were saying. Like, Woody is never a bad person. But when like Tom Hanks is angry and just had it up to here with whoever he's dealing with, and he yells at him, it's so hilarious. The guy is never funnier than when he's pissed off.
Yeah.
And I think that brings a lot to why Woody, it's so great to see him angry and frustrated, and that's kind of this whole movie.
Yeah. Were there any people, do you know if was anyone else considered to play that role?
As far as I know, Tom Hanks was always in their mind, and they have early animation footage where they have a very bad-looking Woody, like, walking around to Turner and Hooch quotes.
Oh, okay.
So I think they always had that in mind. I know they were thinking of Billy Crystal for Buzz Lightyear.
I heard about that, yeah.
Which I'm really glad didn't happen because, A, Billy Crystal is a much better Mike Wazowski, and B, fucking Tim Allen is so good in this movie.
He's so good. It's like, it might be, like, maybe it's his best performance. Like,
I would definitely say so.
I guess that's not saying much.
There's no Tim Allen podcast for a reason. But no, like, in this, like, watching it again last night, he's so fucking funny. There's just, like, I was, and I love Woody, I love Tom Hanks, but I think I was laughing at Buzz so much last night. And, like, a line I've always, like, I'm sure I've always liked, but I never thought about how funny it was. I just got to pull this out here. Is when they're looking at Sid through Lenny the binoculars, and he's like, he's this little monster, and Buzz just goes, "You mean that happy child?"
I always thought that was funny.
So good.
It's such a good line.
Which is so weird, because, like, later on in the movie, he refers to him, "I don't think that man's ever been to medical school."
Yeah, right.
So it's like, Buzz has got a couple screws loose.
Buzz is fucking hilarious.
I love Buzz.
Like, I hated Buzz as a kid, but when you watch him when you're older, he's so funny. And Tim Allen, oh God, it's turning into the Tim Allen podcast, but he plays the spaceman, like the serious spaceman role with such honesty, but there's such a good hamminess to it.
But
it doesn't feel forced. a big thing about why Toy Story's voice acting and what makes it so good is so Toy Story that was when, well, actually it started around Aladdin, but when celebrities started doing the voices for characters, because actually before Aladdin, I don't know how much you know about this, but in Disney movies before that, the celebrity voices, they were not the draw.
Yeah, it was Robin
they would
Williams that started with the genie, right?
Right. That was and we're kind of getting sidetracked, but that's why Robin Williams didn't do the second one, is because he was upset that they made him the focus in all the advertising, because he was assured by them that they wouldn't.
Yeah, that's right. I did hear about that. That's
yeah.
And that was what changed the climate, is what you're saying?
That actually is. Basically, after that, now, because in everything now, every animated movie, it's movie stars doing the voices, and I'm gonna connect this to. I'm gonna connect this to Toy Story. You'll see where I'm going.
I believe you.
But casting movie stars in voice roles does not ensure a good voice acting performance, and I don't even mean amateurish line reads, but I mean like. God, I can't think of an example. But if you do a Ray Romano, it's just Ray Romano as if he's a talking dog or something. Like, it's just him doing that.
Or a talking mastodon.
Oh, that's right. He was in Ice Age. I barely remember that movie. But
no, that's a perfect example. Like, all those dudes are like big actors, but I don't think they bring anything as voice actors.
Yeah, and some of the worst ones are like, it'll be like, oh, William Shatner as an otter, but it's just him doing William Shatner. It's not, you don't feel like this is a character. You just, it's just, get it, he's famous and you recognize the voice. It's funny because it's him.
It's stunt casting.
It's stunt casting, and it's unfortunate, not to get into a tangent, but it actually fucks over because voice actors, because what actually a common practice, I don't know if you know this, but in some animated movies, before the celebrity comes in, voice actors are hired to perform the lines. Ooh. And they record. Oh, you didn't know this?
No.
Yeah. No, this is a thing that happens. I'm sure it doesn't happen with Pixar, but some lesser movies, they bring in real voice actors who play the character, and then they use that as the guide for some celebrity voices.
Wow. I mean, obviously these people still get paid at the very least.
They get paid, but they don't get any of the credit.
It's like shadow writing.
Yeah.
I did not. Yeah, because I know Pixar, they often just do their own in-house scratch voices.
Right, but that's different.
Yeah.
You have to have some kind of voice, but that's...
Because they're still building the reel at that point. That's just a placeholder.
And in some rare cases, like in Ratatouille, the main guy, the main character...
Yes.
He was, I think, an artist, right?
Yeah, Lou Romano, I think is his name. Alfredo Linguini.
Is that his name?
That's the character's name, yes. Did you not know that?
I forgot. Alfredo Linguini. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Okay. Okay, I don't want to... I'm going to connect this to Toy Story. But, so... Anyway, voice actors get shafted because sometimes, I'm sure, they kind of develop that character. And then where I was going with this is that in Toy Story, Tom Hanks and Tim Allen are big names, but they're Woody and Buzz. Like, the performances are so good. I'm not thinking like, oh, that's just Tom Hanks being like, it's like just doing himself. He is playing a character. This is acting. It's not... I'll just get this funny, and Tim Allen too, like to his credit.
Yeah.
And actually, like, Don Rickles and who else is in that? Well, Wallace Shawn is always good.
Wallace Shawn, but he's been a voice actor before.
Yeah. But like
Jim Varney even.
Jim Varney, right? So you listen to Tom Hanks, and it's just like. Did he do any voice acting prior to that? Really,
I believe this was his first voice acting.
Has he really done anything since? I don't know.
He was in the Simpsons movie.
Oh, that's right.
Which
as himself,
which we'll be covering later on in the podcast. When we're getting to those late, when we're running out of episodes, it'll be like, oh fuck, the Simpsons.
Oh, he played himself.
No, he hasn't done a lot of voice acting, and I remember, I again, going to behind the scenes stuff with Toy Story. I think they approached him, and the first thing he asked was, "Are you going to make me sing?"
That's funny.
Yeah, no, because that was a question I did want to ask you, because he is a movie star actor,
Right.
and oftentimes they are when they become voice actors, it's not only not a great performance, but taking jobs away. But how does that feel when, like, he obviously nailed it, as he already said.
Yeah.
Is there any, like, concern over his legitimacy? Because considering he really has only done this series as a voice actor?
I think with Pixar, the people they choose are so good at, like, they are genuinely good at voice acting. Not being a voice actor doesn't necessarily mean doing a funny voice or doing something totally different from your own voice. You can use your own voice, but there is a way of emoting and a way of, like, you listen to some other celebrity reads and it's very flat. Like, it's just it's not dynamic. It just feels like you can kind of tell they're reading off a page. But Tom Hanks, it is good voice acting. And actually, well, I want to make this distinction. Actually, some people might have the misconception that the voice acting is like silly voices or whatever, but voice acting is acting. And if you treat it as what it should be, which is acting, then you're gonna do a good job. And I think that's what makes the performances, not only in most Pixar movies, but especially in Toy Story, so strong. Is that they are playing them as real, living characters. That's basically the strongest. I don't know. It's just I fucking love it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and it's no. I mean, you can hear it in his voice, literally, and that Tom Hanks is really acting here. And I think another I have an overabundance of behind the scenes knowledge about Toy Story.
No, this is I love hearing about it.
So hopefully our audience will too. Like, just another example of how hard he worked is when the match goes out. And he goes that no,
Yeah,
and he has all those no's. They wrote it as a single no, and he was like, "I'll just give you all the ones I got." And then they were like, "Well, fuck, let's use them all."
So did he do those all as separate takes, separate no's, or was it just like, I'm just gonna do like what I feel?
The way I interpreted it from the stuff I've absorbed is that I'm sure it was like a single recording session.
Yeah.
But I got the impression that they picked and choose the no's and then edited them together for the perfect performance.
Oh, wow. But even so, like, the no's are great.
Yeah.
Those are some good ass no's in that scene.
Yeah, and
just that. Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's a little bit of, like, I mean, obviously it's an animated movie. He's a living toy. He's got this. So there's a heightened energy. This, like, in a live action Tom Hanks movie, he gets to this Hanksiest line. We have a whole section in the podcast for that. Like, once or twice in the movie where he gets really shouty and very animated. Right. The whole movie, though, he's like that.
He's constantly like that.
But I think that speaks to what you were saying about how it's about acting when you're voice acting, but you just put it all in your voice.
It has to be all in your voice. That's a big thing. Screen actors have the luxury of, you get to see their facial expression, you get to see their body, their posture, everything. That's all there. So when you see that, you get it. But if you're just the voice, you have to convey all of that.
I got one. And I'm going to say this as a really big fan of this movie. And I mean, I guess the actors. But Angelina Jolie, great actor.
Okay.
But as Tigress in the Kung Fu Panda series, there's like nothing there.
She's fine. She's fine.
She does her job for sure.
Yeah.
But that character leaves me a little flat. And obviously you got a lot of, it's a DreamWorks picture, so there's a lot of big names for the things. But I think pretty much everybody else, maybe not Jackie Chan, but he gets there for obvious reasons.
Jackie Chan is just, he's just Jackie Chan. David Cross is good in that.
David Cross,
Jack
Seth
Black
Rogen.
is always very good at that.
I even really like Dustin Hoffman in that movie.
Dustin Hoffman is great in that. He's great.
He's fantastic.
That's kind of like a Tom Hanks Woody thing, where he just brings a lot of, like, he takes that character seriously.
Yeah.
It's not like a little goofy little character. That's who you are in that moment, and he plays it really well. And what was Oogway the turtle?
Yeah,
he's
Master
really
Oogway.
Good too. Yeah,
Man.
that's right.
I could do a whole podcast on Kung Fu Panda, but we should probably rein it back in.
Go back to Tom Hanks.
And actually, to rein it back into Tom Hanks, I'm going to do something a little different we haven't done on the podcast before.
Okay.
We're the two of us right now. We're raving. The whole podcast is raving about how great Tom Hanks is. I'm taking a little trip over to IMDb, the message boards, to hear a contrary opinion. I want to see what you think of this SungWon.
Sure. Yeah.
So here's the message board post. Tom Hanks, overrated. I think so. And he continues, and just from watching videos of him, he seems to have a massive ego, thinks he is the top dog of Hollywood, or close.
That's it? Is that what that's it?
That is his initial post.
Where are they getting that from? Because everything I've heard him in podcasts, he seems very just like a nice guy.
He seems like the nicest, most genuine guy.
He's as nice as you want him to be, it feels like. I mean, obviously I haven't met him, but like if you listen to someone in a podcast, like an hour long, like not a soundbite interview, but an hour long podcast, you can get a sense at least of what they are like.
Yeah. And
he just seems like it's great, like just like a nice,
he never
generous
seemed
guy.
Conceited or like the top dog of Hollywood. Who is this guy saying?
Yeah.
I don't usually.
What's his username?
I don't usually find trolls on the podcast, but AWOL Mukwai.
Hey, well, Mukwai, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks is the shit. He's a saint.
Here we go. Root Beer King 12 says, I must admit, I too find Hanks to be a terribly unsubtle actor. He's hardly adept at manipulating gesture and inflection, because that's what an actor does. He always just plays some guy who happened upon a plot.
That's what you're supposed to do. You have to be a guy in a plot. What?
Oh my god! And then someone, a genius person, we're gonna call him. His name is Mr. Jack. So good for you. Comes up and defends our boy. He says, "Wonder what movies you mean? Is Forrest Gump the same as let's say the role he played in Catch Me If You Can? Is the role in Big similar to his role in The Da Vinci Code? How is he the same? Because his character in Philadelphia was so like Forrest Gump."
Just thinking about Forrest Gump being the comparison. He has great range, and like you don't really think about it, I guess, because I mean, I guess because he's in so many movies, you might think, oh yeah, it's just Tom Hanks again. But if you actually think about it, he's so good at just becoming a totally different character.
I do think that there is a limit to his range, and I do think he plays best toward a type, which is,
I could see that.
Again, like the reason you hire Tom Hanks is because he's that perfect everyman. He's kind of like a stand-up guy. As he got older, he kind of took on this very paternal, fatherly figure. He's kind of like America's dad, but they're goofy dad. But when he was younger, obviously, he was a little bit more this flustered, funny man.
Yeah.
But he's always had that kind of range, and that makes sense for the parts he's played, sort of seeing it similarly. But and I would say for what is not in his range is mostly like high science fiction and fantasy. Like again, Cloud Atlas is one of his weaker performances in my opinion.
I do not care to see that. Has he ever played like an outright villain?
Road to Perdition, yes.
Oh, that's right.
And The Lady Killers, technically.
Although Road to Perdition, he's not.
Well,
he's like morally gray. He's not the.
I mean, he's never played Emperor Zurg. No, but so maybe I guess the closest to evil, or at least just outright bad, is probably himself or his character in The Lady Killers.
I didn't see that.
He's basically, the only problem is though that he's basically playing Foghorn Leghorn.
Isn't he like, I haven't seen it. Isn't he like a likable rogue or something in that?
I think that's what they're going for, but
it doesn't work.
It's a mess of a movie. J.K. Simmons is really good in it.
Well, he's good in everything.
Well, so is Tom Hanks, but like again, not as good in that one. But
it'd be interesting to see him play just a straight up villain role. I feel like he could.
Actually,
but...
there is a villain. Like he plays a number of characters in Cloud Atlas, and one of them is at least one of them that's a definite like almost a mustache twirling villain, and it's super hammy. Like you can tell, but that's another thing. You can tell he's acting and he's going for it. I just think the direction he was going in wasn't
like
good. Yeah. I would love to see him play a more malevolent force in a more subdued position role, or at least maybe more of a
not fucking Cloud Atlas.
Yeah, not a crazy fantasy sci-fi flick. But yeah, no, he's obviously got a great range. So I don't know why I felt compelled to check the message boards, but I thought it would be fun to do.
It's good to see just a bunch of dummies that just have no idea about anything.
To go back to Toy Story, because it feels like it's been a while. Pretty much the only complaint you can make in comparison with the other movies, the sequels, is that maybe not the animation, but the character models and the looks are a little, they're much more obviously dated. Yeah. It never bothers me when I'm watching the movie. Does it bother you?
I think the toys are okay. I think the humans look like nightmares in early Pixar. They look like horrible monsters.
I think that works. That like especially when Sid is the one we see the most. Like he should look like a monster.
Sid's actually not that bad, but like Andy's mom looks bizarre. Like it just. And Andy looks a little. I mean, you don't notice this when you're watching it as a kid, or even maybe now. But if you're like looking at the humans carefully, they look a little dead.
You know who does looks the scariest? Who is the scariest human? Molly, that fucking baby. Her curly hair is so scary. She looks more like a doll than the baby head on the spider legs.
Yeah, and she's like bashing Potato Head in.
Something I noticed this view through is that the legs, like the pants on all the characters, or at least the mom, are just their legs colored differently because they didn't want to animate the fabric, which I could get behind. I get it, but it's like
that was like the first CG movie.
Yeah, so it's like the tightest pair of tights you've ever seen.
Right.
But that was something I noticed.
Andy's mom got real hot later.
She sure did.
She got smoking hot later.
Yeah, everybody.
When in the first one, she's a fucking Barbie doll.
Yeah, everybody cleaned up by 3. It's weird. Like the toys look newer in Toy Story 3.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's been like 12 years.
Yeah.
To single out the animation though, because there's a moment. I mean, there's like. It's hard to sometimes when you're thinking about it. It's hard to think about an animated movie in terms of physical comedy, even though that's kind of what cartoons were initially invented to do. Was like, hey, let's show something the way it's drawn and moves is really funny, and I feel like that is lost a lot, especially in like television animation is usually less about the animation. Not to take anything away from stuff like The Simpsons or South Park or Bob's Burgers or maybe less so Rick and Morty, but because it's a lot of talking heads, because that's the only thing you have the budget for.
Right.
But and even in some bigger, non-Pixar animated films, you get a lot of that non-animated animationness. But I just want to take a moment to appreciate just some of the movements and stuff in this movie. Like, I think it was a result of the limitations of the technology, but the fact that all the toys blink one eye at a time. It's just,
I never noticed
it's
that.
It's just a nice little touch to the world. Again, you can never notice it, but I think it gives something to the characters. And then I think the funniest moment in the movie in terms of pure animation is when they get into their disguises.
In Pizza
Planet, yes.
I was just about, and like they do the mouth movement
in
the box.
It's so unnecessary. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Why are they doing that? It's so funny.
I saw that. I hit the floor laughing. It's so good. And that scene, that moment too, is another great example of another thing that's just perfect in this already perfect movie. Is sound design. The little squeaking they make when like Buzz is running in the burger thing is hilarious. It just adds to the animation. And to jump further on squeaking is I think it's a stupid thing to pick out the best scene in terms of sound design because I was maybe only listening to it this last time.
Okay.
But the gas station scene is so good because when Andy's mom pulls away and they're alone, it feels so empty.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is the way the voices are affected to sound not echoey, but just like it's so expansive, the space they're in.
Right. That's a great visually. That's a great scene too.
Yeah, it's visual and like it's such a great visual scene, but I think the audio just steps it up tenfold. Yeah. And and it peaks. The audio peaks when they're having their physical fight, and then Woody starts punching Buzz in the face, and it's just squeak, squeak, squeak.
Yeah.
That for me is just the top. I love that. I'm raving again. I'm sorry.
You can't help it with this movie.
Why isn't there a Pizza Planet in real life?
It looks so fun.
That's the most fun place that has ever not existed.
Right. Maybe they have one in like Disney World or something, but it's not going to live up to it. Do they have one?
I've been to Disneyland. I've never been to Disney World.
Okay.
But Disneyland has Pizza Port, which is a space-themed pizza restaurant, but it's not. They don't fucking even call it Pizza Planet. Why not?
What? Why is it called Pizza Port?
I don't know. And
is that from something else?
No.
Oh, they just want to make it worse.
I don't like.
We'll have a pizza space themed place, but we'll call it Pizza Port.
I don't know. They have space sound effects. There's a rocket. It looks just like pizza. Like the only thing they don't have is like all the arcade games, which would be awesome too. But like, why isn't it called Pizza Planet? Like whenever I go there, I'm gonna call it Pizza Planet because I'm not a fucking idiot. But
yeah, right.
Gee, it's just like, come on. But seriously, why is this not a real place?
Speaking of Pizza Planet, I love the game where it's like the astronaut and like the aliens are coming out of his stomach.
Yes, they're ripping
and,
on.
Sid's like whacking on it.
All the games in that like obviously you get the claw, but the whack a alien. There's the one weird ass machine where there's just a kid piloting a giant hyper laser cannon that's called Planet Killer or something.
Yeah, that's right. And like the drink machines.
Oh yeah, like everything in that place is so fun. Like
my only regret is they didn't show the pizza, did they? Do they show the pizza?
I don't know.
I don't think they do. I think I would have remembered that.
You know what?
I was always big on cartoon food.
That's true, and you know what? It makes sense because like back then they really didn't have the limitation to do good food.
It would look like shit. But
maybe they show it in Pizza, and no, they wouldn't even show it in Toy Story 2.
No, I don't think they show it at all.
I know they show pizza in a Pixar movie, but it must not. Yeah.
So what's funny about Pizza Planet is you don't see the pizza ever, but you want to go to Pizza
God,
Planet.
I'm so hungry right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, why doesn't Pizza Planet exist? That's crazy.
Right.
Okay. There's a few toys that we don't really see in the sequels that I just really appreciated being there in this movie. It's I can't remember his name, so forgive me, but the big wrestling dude.
Was it Rocky?
It might have been Rocky. I should look this up.
Something like
but there's also the
oh shit! Oh my god! It's on the tip. Because I remember in the moving van. Oh, what the fuck? Bo Peep is like, blank the ram.
Yeah, she calls to him.
What? Oh, what's his fucking name? Whatever. Anyway,
it is Rocky. Rocky.
Oh, okay.
Gil
right.
Okay, he has a last name for some reason. But Rocky, and then there's the kind of flashy robot who helps Buzz, and he's asking him for tape.
Right.
And then there's like the snake thing too. Like,
the little snake.
Like we never. I think we see the shark in Toy Story 2, but like those three characters, I don't think they come back. And it's like, what happened to these guys? I like these guys.
Oh, they died.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense why they weren't in Toy Story 3, especially. But like, just a little shout out, especially to Rocky. He was a great little background.
Yeah.
Like he could have been a core member of the team, but I feel like they had to have Buzz be the strong guy by two.
The shark scene is one of my favorite scenes in that movie.
Which part?
Hey, I'm Woody. Howdy.
Yes. I guess this is his only real scene, but he's in a couple other shots. Yeah, I love the shark.
And that's the scene where you get to see Woody just be a total dick.
Yeah, just eating it. I don't know. I like that especially because I had a lot of shark toys when I was a kid. That was one I definitely had. But okay, who of like the secondary cast members, toys wise, who's your favorite? Is it Mr. Potato Head?
As a, I think it was probably, or I should say, well, I'm thinking as a kid.
Because like there's Slinky, Mr. Potato Head, Rex. I guess you count.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about them.
Bo
I think my favorite is Ham.
Ham.
And I think Ham was my favorite as a kid too. As a kid, I hated Potato Head in the first movie. I thought I was like, he's so mean to Woody because I really liked Woody.
That's true.
I was on Woody's side, and Mr. Potato Head, it wants Woody's head in that movie.
I know, it's so ridiculous.
He's always the one going after Woody. It's so like they kind of redeem him in 2 and stuff.
Yeah.
They even kind of make fun of it in 2. But yeah,
he's kind of the antagonist.
He actually,
which I think they set up. I mean, purposefully, obviously, because they wrote the movie. But the fact that he shows up as Bad Bart in the beginning, I think, is supposed to color that. Like he's supposed to play the villain too in real life
and be kind of like against Woody. They even give him like not a death, but like they like punish him at the end where like RC's coming through the air and he just explodes into pieces.
Yeah,
like it's just like, oh, like take that, potato. It's a little bit like that.
Actually, if there's one joke that I not even don't like, but just like hits a little slower for me, or if there's like the tiniest little complaint in this movie, it's that I think they go to the Potato Head falling apart joke like
a lot.
Too many times.
Yeah.
Like, because again, that moment when it happens at the end with RC is great, but it happened again like 5 seconds before that.
Yeah, that's true.
And they do cut it down in the sequels. So I think that was one thing they evolved with. But yeah. But you're right. He's such a dick. So Ham.
Ham would be my favorite.
I think I'm with you on Ham, like as an adult. But because I mean, again, I just love Cliff Clavin to begin with, and just he's even more like, I think John Ratzenberger is even better cast as Ham than he was as Cliff Clavin. But and he's got the best lines too.
He's always the funniest one.
He's so fucking funny, and he's got that perfect amount of like, not in the story, but just detached enough to kind of get to be the wry Jim Halpert of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's I think when I was a kid, and a special place in my heart has to go out to Rex.
I know you're a big dino guy.
I love the dinosaurs. I love Wallace Shawn, and I think there's something to like. Whereas Ham is just a little bit more one-dimensional, and I don't mean that in a negative way.
No, I know what you mean.
I think
Rex definitely has a good character.
Yeah, and part of that I realize is that they wrote him basically with George McFly in mind from Back to the Future. And in fact, at least 2 of his lines from this movie are verbatim George McFly quotes.
Are they really?
Yeah, like he says, I just don't like to deal with any confrontation.
Yeah, you're right. Oh my God.
I can't think of any of the other ones at the moment, but there's like
I never
2 or 3
that
lines.
Connection. Rex is
I love Rex.
a character. I love Rex, but I never like. He always surprises me in how funny he can be. Like he's a really funny character.
Yeah, I know one thing. Like for Toy Story 2, I think he gets a lot of screen time because that was one where Andrew Stanton wrote it, and he's gone on saying that he kept specifically writing lines accidentally for Rex because he likes him the best. And yeah, I don't know, just like Rex is great. I love them all though. I feel like I don't love Slinky enough. Nothing wrong with it. Just like
he's a little flat of a character.
Yeah, he's
like, yeah, Woody, I love you. You're the best. You're the best, Woody. It's kind of all there is to him, which is sweet.
Yeah,
it's like a nice.
He's perfect. But
although the scene where he gets pulled.
Oh,
that's a great scene.
Yeah. I mean, there are moments where again, that's why I think this is going back to that thing I said before, where they use characters economically, where when they use Slinky, like in that scene where he's pulling, or when when Slinky is the one who just feels betrayed by Woody, and it's finally over, and he pulls down the curtains for the window.
Yeah, and he has that expression. Oh,
yeah,
man.
they use him perfectly, and when he's not super necessary to the story, they kind of let him fade into the background.
Yeah, they do a really good job of that. Potato Head's always the antagonist. Slinky's always either disappointed in Woody or severely loyal to Woody. They...
Oh, and this is the perfect point to put this out, and this is just a detail I am like swooning over, and it's something I just realized on the last night's viewing. But there's that moment where actually it's a really weird moment because we cut back to Andy's bedroom at night, and his mom tucks him into the bed for night, so he's going to sleep. Yeah. She leaves out the door, the light goes off, and it's been maybe 5 seconds.
They start talking.
And they burst out, they start talking. Like, it would just cut to Andy being there, like, holy shit!
You're right. They don't even waste any time. Well, it's dark now.
He's asleep. So. She hit him with the chloroform or something.
Right. Yeah.
But right after that is when it's Rex and Potato Head burst out first, and Potato Head has the line, "How did I get stuck with you as a moving buddy?" to Rex, and I realized. No, that actually makes perfect sense because A, no one wants to be buddies with Rex because he's such a nerve-wracking piece of shit, and then nobody wants to be friends with or buddies with Potato Head because he's an asshole.
That does make sense.
So it's like they were even thinking on the smallest detail why that would. I just love that. It was like this movie is so smart and so in tune with their characters. Like, and we mentioned strangely enough Buffy earlier. This was written. In large part by Joss Whedon.
Right?
And he has that attention to detail with characters. So like that really rings true to me on just how consistent and character specific this script is, and I just love that.
Didn't one of the Coen brothers?
There is a Coen on the movie. I'm not sure if it's one of the Coens.
I think it is.
I think it is too. I think it's Joel Coen had a hand in writing.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm double checking right now because this is something I should definitely know. Yes. Oh wait, no. This is the bad Coen.
Oh, it's the Garfield.
It's the Garfield Coen.
Oh,
that's why I didn't know that because if it was, I feel like I would have known.
You would have remembered it.
Yeah. No, it's the
Garfield.
The bad guy. Yeah, let's call him the Garfield Coen.
I love that. That's why Bill Murray did the Garfield movies. Oh my god! But he kept doing them. I mean, whatever.
And I love the story that I didn't know until recently that Murray was like he realized what a shit situation he was in, but he worked really hard to make the movie that much less shitty. Yeah, like apparently it was gonna be horrible.
Shit. Oh my god!
I like that Wikipedia even tells me this is about Joel Coen. For Joel Coen, see Coen Brothers.
For the real one. For the
real. So. Oh, here's another thing. Okay, now I want to get into just a little bit. We're going along. This is gonna be a longer episode, guys. There's so much to talk about, but so. Andy's toys obviously love Andy, and there's this really strong loyalty to that. And we see later in the sequels some other stuff with loyalties to other kids and whatnot. But ignoring that for right now, just focusing on this movie, that doesn't have to be true. Like I'm wondering, how does the morality of a toy kind of come into play? And obviously a lot of this is just left up to, mystery. Because Sid's toys don't, unequivocally love him. They're scared to death of Sid.
Right.
So how do you think that works?
Well, Sid's toys it's because Sid has treated them so badly.
Right.
I think Sid's toys, maybe it could be we're just going into the non-existent Toy Story lore here, but it could be something like a baby bird whatever it sees first. That's what it attaches to.
Right.
Something like that, where when the toy is open. Well, see, oh my god, this could be an hour, another hour. So when are toys conscious? Are they conscious when they're first, when they're being built.
I'm really tempted to go into second movie and third movie lore, because we know from second movie that toys are conscious before they're out of the package because of Prospector.
Right. Oh, that's fucked up.
But
as
much as we can, staying to the first movie's lore, or at least rules.
There's a whole thing we could go into, because there's a part at the gas station where Woody is lying on the concrete. The truck's about to roll on his head, but he won't move. Like he stays frozen, even though there's this risk of getting crushed.
When no one's going to see him.
No one's going to see him. He could just run away. I mean, it's probably just like whatever, like just for the writing, just to have that scene where he's almost crushed.
It could also be like toy instinct, though. Like when you're panicking, the thing you do is you drop dead, essentially.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Obviously, they got a lot more savvy after this adventure, and they're just like in the sequels, they're just like, it's crazy how much ground is covered in Toy Story 3 in like a second, when this whole movie was the next door.
Right.
But anyway, sorry, to focus on the first movie.
What were we talking about?
Basically, like, it stemmed from the question of like, so if Sid's toys loved Sid the way Andy's toys loved Andy, wouldn't they want to enjoy the way he plays with them too? Because he's tearing them apart, and it's like torture. But like, if that's all they know, then wouldn't they like almost be happy about that?
I guess toys must have some instinct. Well, it's like it's like having a cat. Like if you mistreat a cat's not a good. Well, this is fun. This is how they show love. A cat knows it's being mistreated. They know what they don't like. I mean, toys can feel pain. Woody screams when Sid uses the magnifying glass on him.
Although he doesn't talk, which is great.
That's true. So so there's this weird like. And so who tells them this like rule, like you can't move when humans are around? What's preventing them from, as soon as they're like conscious, just like blah blah blah, I'm alive now? Like what? I guess they must. So there must be something genetic or something where they know that they can't move. So yeah, I think Sid's toys know, like they don't, like, because it's the whole notion of being played with is pleasurable, but that sounds dirty.
I like, there's a theory that for Toy Story 3, the whole movie is about play is sex, and it's about getting out of a rutted relationship.
Yeah,
it's really, if you pay attention to the movie like that, it's insanely obvious.
Jeez,
we'll be talking about that when we get to Toy Story 3.
Gives me the Ghiblies. Yeah. Well, but they must have some sense of enjoyment just naturally from play. So I think when it's something like, you're being blown up by a fucking rocket or getting your head, like, how fucked up is that? And you know what's sad is that Sid doesn't know these things are alive.
That's true. I mean, he's playing. He's literally having fun. He's just. It's
established that Sid is kind of a shitty kid because he like treats his sister badly, like yells at his mom or whatever. That's not respectful, but. In terms of his toys, he's just doing what he likes to do. I mean, not like no one knows that they're alive.
He's super creative. Like, I mean, you can argue that Andy's creative too, because he plays, like, he makes up stories. But Sid's an artist, man. he doesn't know what he's doing.
He's an artist, bro. Yeah. Sid was innocent.
So this gets into sort of sequel territory a little bit too, but. They do mention breaking the rules.
Oh, they do.
And
right. We're gonna break.
So there are rules that exist somehow in this world, for the toys, and they actually, like, obviously the toys move, and literally Woody speaks to him. We see his face move to Sid. Yeah. So Sid knows the toys are alive, and like,
can you imagine how horrifying that would be? Not only that your toy is talking, your toy's face, emote.
Oh my god.
That's fun.
That's the scariest thing that I think has ever happened in any movie.
Yeah.
But I've always enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, it's a great scene, but thinking about the psychological effects.
Like, I've got some, like, toys in my room right now that I'm looking at that... Yeah. I'm fucking paranoid. Like... Yeah. It's... Like, and that's a scary thing. And obviously the toys, like... are great, like in the movie, like their perspective is like they wouldn't scare you at all. They want to protect you and stuff.
Yeah,
but like,
right.
yeah, Sid's innocent. He's a little bit of a trashy kid, but like, who wasn't when they were 13? I think he's a little older than Andy, is the implication.
Yeah.
So, I mean, scarred him for life. But like, they were in some situations in like, I mean, this is sequel territory. We'll get a little bit into it. But like, why didn't they like scream at Al when he was stealing them? Just to, like, who cares? He's a single alone dude. Like, just leave. Yeah, by the way, Al, we're gonna just walk out of here.
Yeah.
Where that's certainly would have come in handy. Like, can you only break the rules once? Like, what constituted breaking the rules? Why was this okay?
Is there like a toy government that like makes sure that all the toys follow the rules? It's very. I mean, obviously they didn't really think about these things.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that'd be like explaining like why did Groundhog Day happen, which would be horrible.
Yeah.
A wizard cast a spell on the town. So I mean, but it's fun to like talk about.
Yeah. Obviously, the movie is better to not have these things in it, but it's just something. And I think it doesn't hurt the theme of the movie and the philosophy of the movie, but to get into it is just kind of a fun little territory to explore.
Yeah.
Of course, Toy Story 4 is coming. Maybe we'll see the toy government there. And
how do you feel about Toy Story 4? I'm not happy about
Here's the situation, and I'm going to be very, maybe more honest than I've been on this podcast. I obviously love Pixar. I adore them.
Yeah.
I've been a huge fan pretty much from the get-go. Why wouldn't you, with Toy Story being their first out of the gate?
Yeah.
But when they announced, like when Toy Story 3 was coming out, I was nervous about it because I felt Toy Story.
Really? Okay.
I felt Toy Story 2 was the perfect ending, and this was getting to the point where, well, that's the weird thing because Toy Story 1 has a perfect ending. Toy Story 2 also has a perfect ending.
Toy Story 3 has a perfect.
Toy Story 3 has a perfect ending. So like, they're great at this. So traditionally speaking, Toy Story 4 should be amazing, but 3 really completed it for me. I felt like we don't need more. Like, most movies don't survive well to a 3. Most 3s are pretty lousy. And I felt Toy Story was one of the few that got there. I think it got better. It was better unscathed than the original Star Wars trilogy. And I say that as someone who likes Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, but it's definitely no Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, and the other thing was, I have very mixed feelings about Finding Dory.
Really? See, that one I'm okay with.
See, I love Finding Nemo so much, and I feel like I've gotten a little sour on it since they announced the sequel. What strikes me about that movie is it's so. I mean, I use this word a lot on this podcast today, but it's so perfect, and it's like that is the story. For me, like, I loved spending time with those characters in that world, but I didn't feel like there was another tale to tell. Obviously, there very well may be, and it may be, like, I'm hoping I'm wrong, and all my concerns are going to be like, I was an idiot, and Finding Dory is awesome. But
I think go ahead.
But it's sort of like, at a certain point, I want the story to be complete. I guess it's not really about me, but like, even if it's good, does it still not kind of... There's a slight cheapening of the original. Like, imagine WALL-E 2.
Oh my god.
Like, Pixar
would be done.
Yeah, but like I said, like, I never could imagine a Finding Nemo 2. But that's what's happening.
You know, I'm still okay with it, but I know what you mean, because the plot of Finding Dory doesn't particularly interest me. The only reason I'm optimistic is because Andrew Stanton he's directing it, right?
Yes, but he kind of came back. At least this is the rumor mill. He came back to it to do it because what is that movie, the live action movie?
John Carter
didn't do well, and they really bashed on him for its performance. When I feel like it was a little unfair to put it solely on his shoulders.
Yeah.
But he kind of took a hit with that, so he went back to Pixar, and he was like, well, I guess I gotta make the implication
Finding Dory,
so I can make another movie. So, and that's I really hope that's not like something amazing will come out of it. But I think I would feel this nervous about it even if that wasn't the case.
Let's hope it's a Toy Story 3.
Let's hope it's or a Toy Story 2.
Or Toy Story 2.
Because the other thing is I really enjoyed Cars and Cars 2, whatever, but I really enjoyed Monsters U. It's not entirely necessary, but I thought it was a great little story.
It's good.
I really liked how it focused on Mike's story this time, and it was less about Sully. I thought that was clever.
Yeah, it was good. It was a little... I enjoyed Monsters U. We're going into just Pixar territory now, but...
Tom Hanks, guys.
Tom Hanks, great guy.
I wonder what he thinks about Pixar. Go on.
Oh man, I don't want to. Maybe we should talk about Pixar just after this.
Okay.
Because I have so many. Oh,
fine. Okay. Let's. Okay. Sorry. If you want to hear our extended podcast about Pixar, write us in at tomhankspod, and we'll let you know. Maybe I'll record this piece. To bring it back to Toy Story, though, I have a couple more. We're talking about the rules and stuff. There is one thing. For me, for a minute, I always thought it was just Buzz was delusional. I was always like, why is it just Buzz? Who can't remember? But also the aliens are delusional, so it's kind of like thematic to the space toys.
That's true. So, and Emperor Zurg, too.
Yeah, so
right?
What's the deal with the space toys?
What's the deal with space toys?
Obviously, there's, just some hand-waving you have to do, because, Woody's been... especially with what we know in Toy Story 2, Woody's been around for a while, longer than Andy's been alive. So how come Woody doesn't remember his Emily or whoever that would have been before Andy? Do the toys' memories wipe? But then if there is a Toy Story 4, I'm sure they're going to remember Andy. Despite being with not Molly, Bonnie. So. I don't know. That's just. Did you have any thoughts on that?
I guess space toys are just dumb. I mean, kind of. I mean, I guess. Well, I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with their story that their toys have. Their personalities are just more defined by their, I guess, theme. I don't know.
Perhaps.
It's interesting.
Jumping back to Sid's toy, this is another thing. I was just thinking about, obviously too much content for one podcast, but my brain was exploding when I was watching the movie last night. So back to Sid's toys, Woody refers to the two of them as Legs and Ducky, and I thought, great names, great little characters, but I have to wonder, do the toys assume new identities after they've been mishmashed together? How does that if you took Andy's toys, if you cut up Woody and put him as a part of Rex, would he be a new person or would he still be Woody? Is there a dual consciousness that takes over? And plus none of them talk too, so
I always assumed whatever the head was, that was the consciousness.
Okay.
So for Legs, I think it would actually be
it would be the fishing pole.
The fishing pole, which is weird to think about, but yeah. Ducky, I just assumed because...
The Pez dispenser's Ducky, that makes sense.
Yeah. And there's baby face,
right?
Baby
But the spider piece is almost seem like connects, so they seem like they'd be... That's what I always took,
not sentient
an erect. Well, they'd be sentient in the same way that a hive mind would.
That's weird to think about.
I know we got the Lego movie, so we saw how that works. But I imagine if Legos were in the Toy Story universe, it would just be the School of Fish from Finding Nemo.
That'd be pretty funny.
I would love to see that crossover. But again, we're getting very long. I almost have too many things to talk about here. So I'll kind of run it down. Just to go back to what you were saying about how Woody drops at the sign of the truck.
Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, there's just 3 toys flying down on a firework down a busy street. Who's not seeing this?
And then, like, they're just flying in the air, like, way above everything. Like, what if you just saw that?
Which, by the way, Buzz escapes from the rocket and the tape by just pushing his wings. He could have gotten out of that at any moment.
The whole time.
I never realized that.
I never thought about that.
Like, what a douche.
So many problems. Like, getting stuck in the fucking fence. Like, so many problems could have been avoided.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Oh my god, we're finding holes all over this script.
It's only making me love the movie more.
Yeah, that's true.
There's so much more I could say, but to wind it back, to kind of wrap everything up, let's go back to Hanks, the movie.
Hanks, the man himself.
This it's so engaging. The movie as a whole, like, and again, like, it's so smart with how like every 5 minutes you're almost, if you're not in a new environment, you're learning something new. Like, once we get
the relationship is changing.
Yeah, we get to Pizza Planet, and it's like exciting. We see all these toys, and that's only for like or not toys. We see all these arcade games and all this crazy stuff. Yeah. But like seconds later, we're inside of the spaceship with the aliens and the claw.
Yeah,
and like immediately we're learning. Oh, we're already in a new thing. We're learning some new rules and new things for these characters, and then we learn about the claw, and then we go to Sid's house and that whole thing. And it's just like this constant reestablishing of environment and rules that I think is what keeps this movie so engaging. So that's something to, I don't know, keep in mind for our listeners as they write movies.
I mean, honestly, just that concept is so fun, and then just Hanks brings so much realism. It makes that world feel real. It makes it feel lived in.
That's the thing. Like, you can have all the like the details in the world, but if you don't, like, and the most fun world, but if you don't have someone to ground it, to carry the movie, it's not going to feel real. And I think you're right. What is your takeaway from this movie and Tom Hanks' performance specifically as a voice actor?
Well, like, now or when I watched it or what?
I guess now, because we kind of talked about it before when you watched it. Like, is there anything you would, like, this is... I mean, it's a stupid thing to boil it down to a this is the thing, because that's never the case, but...
No, I know what you mean, though. I guess it's, like, sometimes I struggle with, when I have to kind of play a character whose voice is similar to my own, but watching a really good performance like Tom Hanks's in Toy Story, like, that's Tom Hanks's voice.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's still, you're not conscious of that when you're watching the movie. And I think just listening to, well, I already knew this, but it's just kind of like a reinforcement of just, you have to really put yourself into the character, and then the voice itself will just come naturally. That's kind of how I that's kind of what I take away from it.
Yeah. This is one of his best performances. And, like, you don't even see his face, but it's one of his best performances.
It is a very good performance.
Oh, God. We've talked so much about this movie. It's so great. One of possibly the best performance Tom Hanks has ever done, and that is a strange thing to say. Not a detrimental thing to say about voice acting, but like the fact that he's able to put so much into just his voice, and it's one of his best characters. But there's only one other question I can think to ask as we wrap things up, and that's SungWon.
Yeah.
If Toy Story were an ice cream flavor,
okay,
what ice cream would it be?
Okay, how about this? Have you done cookies and cream?
Yeah.
Oh, you have?
No. I think you're right.
Oh, I think it's a rich film. It has little cookie details.
Well, even cookies and cream, like, it seems like something a kid would like.
Yeah,
and this Toy Story is all about, obviously a kid, Andy, but just like the world you knew when you were a kid was these toys.
Yeah.
I think I'm down. Like, the only other one I was thinking of is maybe cookie dough, because it's got to be like one of the best flavors of ice cream,
and something that evokes childhood. So cookie dough, I think, is valid too.
I think cookies and cream takes the cake, though.
Yeah.
Well done. All right, this is Cookies and Cream. That's Toy Story, everybody.
Yeah, go watch it.
Watch it and subscribe to our other podcast where it'll be just hours of us talking about Pixar.
And the lore of Toy Story.
Oh, man. Well, we'll have to have you back for Toy Story 2, I think, at this point.
Oh, I would love to.
All right. Let's see. SungWon Cho. I'm sure there's people who, if they don't know you already, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at ProZDKP, PROZDKP. I'm also on YouTube, youtube.com/ProZD, ProZD on Tumblr. Basically, if you type PROZD into Google, you'll find pretty much every site.
All those links to all of SungWon's stuff will be in the show notes. But check his stuff out. Check his voice acting stuff out, especially if you are not already familiar with it, because it's amazing.
Thank you.
He'll be in Toy Story 5, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
You just remember what your old past said, or you got a friend in me.
And that is our conversation about Toy Story. Big thanks again for SungWon Cho to being on the show. And if you don't want to miss him in his return for Toy Story 2, do not forget to subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you enjoy the TomHanksgiving podcast here in this most Tom Hankful of all holiday seasons, then please give us a rating and some comments there on iTunes. Share it with your friends, everybody who you think would enjoy Tom Hanks, because this is the spirit of Hanks. And I would be very thankful for you. I would be very Tom Hankful for you if you were able to do that for us. But most of all, let me express my gratitude to, again, SungWon, and to all of the wonderful guests I've had on so far on this little podcast adventure. And, of course, to Greg for doing the intro-outro songs. He's been a big part of making the show seem just a little extra special. And, of course, to Tom Hanks, the man himself, all of the wonderful filmmakers and actors and everybody else that he's been involved with, bringing us these delicious movies. And, of course, big thanks to you, who, the gentle listener of TomHanksgiving. So, there will be a podcast next week, and we will be discussing The Burbs, but there might be a little bit more to it than your regular podcast. So, have a happy TomHanksgiving, and thanks for listening.
Tom Hanks, we fell in love with you, Tom Hanks, just like so many do deeply, because you made us smile, and your great on-screen style. So that's why we give thanks, 'cause you got a friend in Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks. You are a toy.